Well, thank you, and thank you, CDW, for allowing me to spend a few minutes with you over the lunch hour today. I like being the lunch speaker because with your mouths full, you tend to ask fewer questions, which makes me look a little better. My name is Dave Duhn, and I'm with NJPA. We are the National Joint Powers Alliance. We're based in central Minnesota, if anybody knows where Staples, Minnesota is. You know where everybody goes on vacation in Minnesota, just like you go to upstate here? That's where we live, up in the lakes and trees and woods. So when I come out east, every time I speak, people say, oh, are you New Jersey, Pennsylvania? Are you the New Jersey Port Authority? No, we're a government agency based in Minnesota. So what I want to do over this lunchtime is just spend a few minutes with you talking a little bit about NJPA, but I really don't want to make this about NJPA. I want to talk to you about procurement a little bit and how that landscape is changing to benefit all of you. Talk just a little bit about IT and then maybe a couple of takeaways. Probably the best part of what I get to do is I get to travel the country and talk to all your peers. So we get to hear what's going on, what they're seeing, what trends they're aware of, and we like to share that with the audience. So don't think that I'm standing up here thinking I'm the subject matter expert or that we think we have all the answers, because we don't. We hear from you, it drives what we do, and we're here to help you. So as Dave said this morning, remember when he was talking about curriculum and technology and trying to put the two together? We're really in that same boat. So think of NJPA in this way. What are you going to buy? You want to buy technology. Okay, that's CDW or CDW-G. How are you going to buy it? That's where NJPA comes in. That makes sense to everybody? We're the how to get to them. So it's not about us. It's about the vendors that we've awarded contracts to that you want to use. We just tend to make that process a lot simpler. Okay? So also, Dave talked about communication, a little bit about NJPA. As I mentioned, we're a government agency based in central Minnesota in a small town of 3,000 people. And up until 3 years ago, our offices were in a renovated bowling alley, right? So they ripped out the bowling alley and we had a bunch of cubes. And about 3 years ago, we got to move to a new building. I mean, an office building. I mean, a real office building. So we moved in, and some local people were all proud that we were able to do that. And they sent us some flowers. And I went up to the front desk and got the flowers. And on the card, it said, "Rest in peace." Oh, well, that's kind of an odd thing. So I called Frank, the florist, who I know really well. I said, Frank, can you tell me, is this some joke I don't get? He calls me back about 5 minutes later and says, Dave, there's been a terrible mistake. Your flowers went to a funeral, and on that card it said, good luck in your new location. So anyway, communication's kind of key. I want to be clear. I want to bring some clarity today to the discussion so you understand what we do, how we do it, and how we can help you do a better job. So being from the state of hockey in Minnesota, where it's going to be 24 below, thank you for making me feel welcome here on a nice cold day. Why did we beat the Russians? We beat them because we changed the way they played the game. Everybody remember Miracle on Ice, right? And everybody talks about Herb Brooks. But I don't believe the story is really about the team or about Herb Brooks. I believe it's about Walter Bush. Walter Bush, if you remember the movie or if you remember the real story, Walter was on the Olympic Committee, and he's the one that went to the Olympic Committee and said, we haven't won the gold since 1960. And if you want to get your butts kicked again, let's keep doing the same thing, right? Part of that definition of insanity. Walter said, we need to take a chance. We need to take a chance on this young coach called Herb Brooks. And by the way, what do you got to lose? And they went with it, and it became history, right? Well, procurement's going through that same sort of shift and change. Everyone here from the state of New York, right? New York was the 50th state to allow cooperative purchasing. Congratulations. Right? Now, just before you was Massachusetts. They were 49th. But starting back in 2013, it was illegal to use a cooperative like ours to buy goods and services. Strictly illegal. And the law changed, and the first time they did it, they got it wrong. And so they had to amend it. It took about another year before they said, now this is a choice. And that's all this is, folks. The use of a national cooperative simply allows you to buy a different way. Anybody here ever use an OGS contract? Right? Yeah, I didn't think so. Anybody here from OGS? Okay. So the use of a contract to satisfy your bid requirements is exactly what we do. That's the long and the short of it. We go out and competitively solicit. We have the legal authority to do so. We solicit and award national vendors or national contracts. We've done it over 200 times. So when you think Caterpillar, Grainger, John Deere, CDW-G, they won a national solicitation with us, and that means that you can use that to satisfy any bidding requirements you might have. But again, up until a couple of years ago, that was strictly legal in the state of New York. And now we're in that sort of awareness and education stage as people are saying, geez, I wonder if I can use that as a vehicle. And that's really starting to catch on. Again, 48 states have been doing this for a long time. It offers you another choice. So how does it work? We go out on the street based on what you tell us you need to bid. The very first contract we had almost 15 years ago was Sharp copiers. So we went out and bid copiers. And then we had a national contract that people could use across the country. So we go out to bid, and in this case we went out to bid technology, and we had national respondents come back, and we went through an evaluation just like your procurement departments would go through. And we bid and awarded CDW-G. They beat out heads up, SHI, and Edu Tek Ltd. So they were awarded a 4-year contract with us. When they were awarded that contract, we promised them zero business. We told them that the members we serve will vote with their checkbooks. You have a great solution, you have great products, you have great pricing, you have great service, they'll use it. If you don't, they won't. It's that simple. So we don't guarantee anybody any volume, and our members utilize these contracts when they make sense. Our members, those we serve, join NJPA. How many people in here are a member of NJPA, do you know? Who's used NJPA? Okay. So you join, it takes about 90 seconds online. The agency that you're a part of joins. The district joins, not an individual. Once they join NJPA, you have access to all 200 of our competitively solicited and awarded contracts nationally. You want to buy office supplies from Staples? You can. You want to buy facilities from Grainger? You can. You want to buy bulldozers from Caterpillar? Absolutely. You join NJPA, and then the third link is you work directly with that supplier. So CDW is who we awarded. You work directly with them, but you use the contract and the pricing that we awarded them on a national basis to be able to procure your goods and services. That clear to everybody? All right. There are going to be some legal and procurement people that says you can't do that. Please let us know when that happens. Do we have any procurement people here? Right? They're all about compliance. Right? They're coloring between the lines. Typically, when they say they can't use us, it's a function of them not understanding who we are. Let me give you a quick example. OGS has adopted 30 of our contracts at the state level and turned them into state contracts. Caterpillar, John Deere, Kubota, Case, mostly in heavy equipment. Why? Because that's how states think. They award to manufacturers, right? Well, if you're going to award to Caterpillar as an example, you can buy everything under our contract that Caterpillar makes. That fits the state model. I will tell you, OGS hasn't done that in the technology space, have they? They have different categories over different contract managers in different areas. The reason they adopted our contracts is they said, look, these heavy equipment contracts we're going to rebid, it's going to take us 18 months. That surprise you? They said, people aren't going to be able to buy goods and services unless we use your contracts. So that's why OGS adopted us. They are not there, I will tell you, in this space. And there are contracts lapsing, and we become a gap filler. We currently have about 25 states that have adopted individually about 150 of our contracts. The state says it makes sense. Why wouldn't we use your bid to satisfy our bid requirements and let our members enjoy that? I would also tell you the members we serve, K-12, public and private, Montessori, higher ed, public and private, any unit of government, state, local, federal, anybody but the executive branch, they're exempt. But the final category is nonprofits. So when you go back home, if you have any relationship with local nonprofits, you got to tell them about our contracts. They will get pricing they would never get on their own. So the church that wants to buy a copier, the club, the nonprofit, the association, it's a tremendous opportunity for them to understand and utilize our contracts to get pricing and volume that they'd never benefit from individually. So again, we awarded everything, we awarded to CDW. It is everything in their catalog. One of the things our members told us is we don't like a contract that has this item but not this item, this item but not this item. So all these really cool tools in this room that can help you do a better job, they're all available through the CDW-G contract through NJPA. That's what we want. We want everything under the umbrella. How is this taken off? I want you to understand that people need to get comfortable with the ability to use this. And our growth has absolutely been exponential. Last year, our members bought just shy of $1.5 billion in products and services from our vendors. This year, we're on another 30% growth rate. Why? Because they like the vendor. We're the simplest way to get to them. 200 contracts, and again, covering all kinds of different categories. So, you're talking to procurement, you tell them what you want, they write the spec, and you get this, right? Little lack of communication. I stole this from one of the airport people that I was with and said, you know, sometimes the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing, and we don't get it quite right. Then he had the next slide, which is we need baggage claim seating, right? So this is what they got. Have any of you ever been there? Do you have people in your organization that don't understand? You know, David talked beautifully about it this morning, about what do we want the outcome to be. And once we want to know what the outcome is, then we can work backwards on the tools that are going to get us there. Now, I left Minnesota on Monday, and I went to Orlando to go to the Grainger show. Are you familiar with Grainger, the facilities people? 700 vendors, 6,200 agencies there looking at products and services. Touching, feeling, looking at what's the right tool to get this job done. It's an amazing show to see that many people in the Orange County Convention Center. But that's exactly what they were doing. All these facilities people never get a chance to get out, and for 2 days straight, there are 700 booths set up where they can touch and feel the equipment and look at what to use. I mean, it's a powerful, powerful message. And isn't that what's happening here? I'm next to Intel. Not only are the t-shirts cool, well, sort of, Phil, but we'll push the t-shirts later. But the technology is really cool and really useful. So what's the reality? Procurement's evolving. Is procurement typically your friend or your enemy? Depends on your agency, right? Sometimes they're the people that get in the way. As I speak to those groups, and I do that nationally all over in all kinds of different verticals, procurement's evolving, right? There are some of those people that said, nope, we got to bid it. That's how we've always done it. You know, I don't know if you have that procurement lady, Helen, the lady with the bun and the leather thing with the wood stick through it, right? Says, I've been here 26 and a half years. Don't you dare. You tell me what you want, but I'll get it my way. They're evolving. Any of you on e-procurement are using punch-outs? I mean, Staples, Grainger, and CDW have very robust website and buying tools, right? But a lot of people aren't there yet. That's an aging population. I met with somebody who says, I am 9 fire drills from retiring. We're not doing nothing new. Right? They're all about compliance and coloring between the lines. We can help with that. But that is the real discussion going on. AASA is going on this week. Anybody know what AASA is? American Association of School Administrators. It's the Superintendent's Association. There's 2,000 superintendents at their national conference. One of the big discussions going on is centralized versus decentralized purchasing. Especially in K-12, the attitude is bad. We're going to give every building their own budget, and they can just come back. If you have the same fiscal we do in Minnesota, it's July 1st, right? Give them their $100,000 and have them come back next July 1st. And the discussion is around about, but wait a minute, if we pull all that together and we pool all that, we can get better pricing, better service, better products, better vendors. But in K-12, you've frankly been the slowest to adapt. Because a lot of procurement people said it's not worth the hassle I get from the people out at each of those individual schools. The second thing, and maybe you've run into this, everybody's an expert, right? Even in your area, right? I already know what I want. And one of the challenges in that area has been the soft cost of purchasing. Do you know how much time it costs to have somebody actually looking at 3 different websites to see if they can save $6? Right? Or to pay with a P card instead of paying with a check or electronically or some other way. There's a huge discussion going on in that area about bringing the cost, the soft cost, not just the dollar cost, the soft cost of what it costs to buy and shop. And people say, well, I don't know why you got me that, right? I could have got it $26 cheaper at Walmart. Has anybody ever faced that before, right? The people saying, yeah, but that's not what I want. Very interesting discussion going on. And what they're finding is that the data behind that is saying when we centralize, we save tons of money. We save tons of money because we're driving the spend through a particular contract that allows us the kinds of things we're going to go. Now, CDW happens to be currently our largest contract. It wasn't the largest contract we had 3 years ago. I think that speaks to the growth of your space, right? IT used to be what? Just the hardware folks? And now it's voice, data, communicate, it's everything. And it's the organization. And I heard David say this morning, what happens when the system goes down, right? Everything's a fire drill, right? So in our own building, we now have a work order ticket. Our IT guy walks down the hall and everybody pops out. Does that happen to any of you? Everybody pops out and says, hey, I want on Windows 10, I got this icon, but I want the really cool one. You know, a real emergency, right? He walks down the hall going, fill out a ticket, fill out a ticket, fill out a ticket, fill out a ticket. But they've been able to manage that much better with people saying, and guess what? The first 300 tickets that came in, all were high priority. Of course, right? Because my problem is the problem. So we see a lot of that. Anybody familiar with School Dude? Know who they are? School Dude just partnered with Grainger, and they put their workflow management system together with Grainger ordering. Really interesting. Just saw it when I was in Orlando. But it's the melding of a couple of technologies to say, let's figure out what you got to do and let's give you the tools to get it done. Very fascinating combination. So, also, I want your input. I'm here the rest of the day. If you have ideas, please come and talk to me. Tell me what you're seeing. Tell me what the gaps are. Tell me what the holes are. We bid and solicit things nationally based on your input, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. So where are we going? You told us we got to go beyond just hard goods. We used to do just tractors and equipment. We're getting into more and more services. If you look at the CDW-G offering, it includes all kinds of services that it didn't have 4 or 5 years ago. We're looking at customized catalogs. We see that at the state. The state says, oh, we got a catalog for this already that's not to expire. They'll turn off those SKUs until that contract expires, and they'll turn them back on. We're seeing customized use to that. Lots and lots of services. Leasing. Anybody doing leasing? Boy, it is exploding in the public sector. Because where does a lease payment come out of? It comes out of your operating budget, not the capital budget. Everybody with me? So now we have a couple budgets to work with. So people that never thought they would use financing are using leasing to manage those two buckets of money. And most of the leases have a no prepayment penalty option. So if you get to the June 10th and you have some use it or lose it money over, you can pay down the lease, you can buy ahead. I mean, lots of flexibility. I never thought I'd see it as much as I've seen it lately, but it's absolutely exploding in that state. We just had a school district just north of me in Minnesota. They did 800 Chromebooks. They're leasing them for 4 years. I never thought I'd see that either. And then we do some unique things. We have a construction contract, very unique, the only one in the country, where they'll actually come in, they have a job order book, they'll come in and they can do construction projects. What the contract does is a national firm oversees it, but they use all local contractors. So we're doing an addition on our building, we're using our own construction contract, all the contractors, 95% of the contractors are all local. Works very, very well. Payment processing, anybody process payments? We just awarded FIS, who's the gorilla in that space, for check, credit card, ACH, EFTs, the whole ball of wax. Lots of people have credit card programs, but nobody's done the infrastructure side. We actually have now a payment processing contract. And the click rates you're paying might be high, might be low, but remember, there are 900 credit cards out there that all charge various rates. So if you're getting a rate like 1.8 or 2.1 or 3, whatever it is, you have no idea. They absolutely unbundle the whole thing and say, you know what, if you scan checks, it's still the cheapest way for you to process money. Imagine if you could save 0.5% on every payment you process. Big deal. Information security assessments, we just awarded that. Intrusion testing, PCI compliance, data security, phishing, they'll do all those various services because our members said, we need you to vet somebody. Turns out, we got to make sure we protect this data. We don't want to be the next Home Depot or Target, right? We don't need that reputation risk. So we're seeing an absolute uptick in that area. I just did a national webinar with airports on Tuesday, and the airports were just blown away by it and said, this is something we got to do, and we got to find out where all the holes are. What I like about the people that we awarded is that they don't sell anything. It's a professional services agreement. So it's not that, oh, by the way, here's the recommendation, I have all this product to sell you. They simply come in and say, here's the scope of work you had us do, here are our findings, and here's what we think you can do about it, but you need to buy that solution from somebody else. And then lastly, for any of you that offer health insurance to your employees, we have Obamacare figured out, and we have an engagement tool, believe it or not, that engages the employee population. The missing link in all this isn't the hospital, it's not the doctor, it's not the carrier, it's employee engagement and awareness. People have no idea why their premiums are what they are. So our engagement tool starts them in that education process. Say, you want to know why your premium's $1,000 a month? It's $1,000 a month because of the way you utilize services. And if you started treating buying health services the same way you shop for groceries, guess what? We could help bring down those costs. Very, very powerful tool. Health insurance is extremely, extremely individual. It's driven by the individual behaviors of people, not the carrier, not the hospital, not the big bad docs. All right, so what's your role? And I tell this to every government group I talk to. I think you need to start bragging. How many people here grew up with a sales background? Yeah, right? Well, yeah, vendor, of course, right? You need to start bragging about the ROI you bring to the table. People need to know the value you bring. And I see that in the public sector. People are very humble. And there's lots of metrics out there to say last year, we had somebody in Iowa. We call it the county of Iowa because it's not that big. But that went there and said, did you know everybody in my department had a 9-to-1 ROI last year? So for every $100,000 in salary, we saved you $900,000. So before you think about cutting people in my department, would you look at the ROI we deliver to the bottom line? Anyone here have too much budget or too many staff? Anybody? Yeah, I didn't think so. Right? So I think you need to start doing that. And I mean in a respectful way, but I think people need to understand, I really think you need to brag. I think you need to educate people up and down the food chain. I really do. You know, I get so, every one of these I go to, there's a speaker on leadership. I'm so sick of hearing about leadership, I could spit. Because you know what we are? Most of us manage relationships. We have people above us, we have people below us, right? So let's talk about leadership and that concept, which is, do we educate those above us, and do we help educate those below us? I think that's where the real value comes in. And leadership speaks to that, but leadership is basically about vision and strategy. And you know what? Day to day we get up and said, Connie in the next cube, I just absolutely can't stand. Right? Educating up and down your organization can provide numerous benefits. David talked about it this morning. How about the right solution? I mean, I was reminded that at Granger. Right sizing the fit, right? Let's not put a 400 horsepower engine in a go-kart. You are uniquely well suited to do that. But let's make sure people are focused on the right solution. When I first got my iPad, I thought, what am I going to do with this thing 4 years ago? It's a toy, right? I've now migrated to the Surface 4. They got rid of my laptop. Now it's seamless. I'm loving it. And I'm not a tech guy. You see my screensaver? Anybody know what beach that is? It was in Dominican. It's where I took my wife for her 50th birthday. We're still married. But a guy from Minnesota has to have a screensaver like that, right, when it's 24 below. But how about bringing clarity to what the solution needs to be, outcome-based? Understand the difference between we can't and we just don't want to. When you go to procurement or somebody and they say, oh, we can't use NJPA, I want to know about it. Literally, I want you calling me and telling me. Don't tell me you can't, because I think you probably can. It's usually that they don't have enough information to be able to utilize us. They've never heard of us. They don't know what we are. We're from Minnesota. What are you talking about? This is all brand new. There's a huge difference between can't and don't want to. If they don't want to use our contract with CDW, that's a business decision. We can live with that. CDW can live with that. What we can't live with is people that saying, oh, we can't use it. So our question usually is, and we're getting some of that pushback from some lawyers and some procurement people, oh, can't do that. We ask specifically what makes you think you can't. And we've been amazingly successful getting them more information so they can get comfortable. Because remember, our contracts are just a choice. You never have to use them. It just has to be the best fit. That's the value we bring. It's not mandated. It's not you shall, you must, you will. It's if this is the right fit, use it. If not, go another way. We get that. And I think you need to become known as the person who gets people what they want. Is that your reputation? Or are you the person who stands in the way of not getting them what they really wanted? Again, I think that gets back to communication. That's what your peers are telling me. They're working very, very hard on their internal messaging and communication about what is it that you want to accomplish. Let me help you get there the best way. Help your organization get where they need to go. Now, the tagline should be, even if they don't know where they want to go, right? Is that true? Remember the quote from Alice in Wonderland? Which path do I take? Well, where do you want to go? She said, I don't know. I said, well, then it doesn't matter which path you take. Great quote, isn't it? Questions? Was that helpful? Did I tell you anything you didn't already know? I was supposed to be the entertainment for lunch. That wasn't really very entertaining, was it? Questions? Use this tool. CDW has been a tremendous awarded vendor. I'm not part of that process. We have a contracts team that does that. When they selected them, I couldn't have been happier because they drive value and solutions. Everything I heard this morning was all about what is the solution you're looking for. And it's not this, it's not that, it's everything in your catalog. Thank you very much.